Welcome to Owl Books. If you like audiobooks, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. The book Mini Habits for Good Habits Only. Before we get any further, I want you to understand that this book will not help you quit smoking or control a gambling addiction. Mini habits are for good habits only, adding positive behaviors to your life to enrich it for years. Breaking bad habits and making good habits do have the same goal, replacing a default behavior with a better behavior. With bad habits, your primary motivation for change is an away response from something bad. With good habits, your primary motivation for change is a toward response to something good. Mini habits focuses on the toward response. Changing deeply rooted active bad habits like substance addiction involves a different psychological process and may require professional assistance. That said, if you're looking for a long-term play to help with passive bad habits such laziness, fear, or wasting time, then this book can help you tremendously. Passive bad habits can often be marginalized by incorporating good habits into your life. How can you continue with your bad habits if you spend all of your time on good ones? And honestly, adding good habits this way is pretty easy to do. Quick fixes are often bogus, but when you've literally been fighting against your brain for a decade or more for some of you, then a strategy that works with your brain will be easy in comparison. With the right knowledge and strategy to change, what previously seemed impossible becomes rather straightforward and possible. It's like trying to open a locked door. It's only easy if you have the right key or are a locksmith or thief, but now the analogy is too complicated. That said, those covered in darkness, probably because of their bad habits, need light in their life too. If your life is a complete mess of bad habits, adding in some good habits can change you. Darkness is not something that exists on its own, it's the name we give for the absence of light. Perhaps people have bad habits because they lack the light of good habits, which permits a dark void in their life. When you add good habits into your life, it illuminates another possible path, restores your confidence, and gives you hope. It also serves as a brilliant foundation from which to build. This information doubles as a life philosophy that demonstrates, explains, and celebrates that the first step forward is always the most important one, by far. In other words, it can help you in other areas besides your habits. I don't merely hope that this book will help you, I'm confident that it will, as confident as I am that most people's New Year's resolutions will fail. That is, it's a high statistical probability. With many habits, you can join the ranks of people who change their lives in the most unbelievable way. A brief synopsis of mini habits. Since I refer to mini habits throughout the book, I want to briefly explain the concept. A mini habit is basically a much smaller version of a new habit you want to form. 100 push-ups daily is minified into 1 push-up daily. Writing 3,000 words daily becomes writing 50 words daily. Thinking positively all the time becomes thinking 2 positive thoughts per day. Living an entrepreneurial lifestyle becomes thinking of 2 ideas per day, among other entrepreneurial things. The foundation of the mini habits system is in stupid small steps. The concept of small steps is nothing new, but how and why they work have not been adequately dissected. Of course, small steps are relative too. A small step for you could be a giant leap for me. Saying stupid small clarifies it, because if a step sounds stupid relative to the most you can do, it's perfect. The power of the mini habits system is in the application, mindset, built-in positive feedback looping, naturally increasing self-efficacy, and of course, leveraging small steps into habits. This will be explained, but it's also built in. It's a simple system with a complex, smart backing. The way we act on these mini habits is by using a small amount of willpower to force ourselves to do them. It doesn't take a lot of willpower to do 1 push-up or come up with a couple of ideas. The benefit from following the mini habits system is surprisingly big results. First, there's a great chance that you'll do bonus reps after you meet your small requirement. This is because we already desire these positive behaviors, and starting them reduces internal resistance. The second benefit is the routine. Even if you don't exceed your small requirement, the behavior will begin to become a mini habit. From there, do bonus reps or scale the habit up. Another benefit is constant success. A bank may be too big to fail, but many habits are too small to fail, and so they lack the common destructive feelings of guilt and inadequacy that come with goal failure. This is one of the very few systems that practically guarantees success every day thanks to a potent encouragement spiral and always attainable targets. Many habits have made me feel unstoppable. Prior to starting many habits, I felt unstartable. To summarize, a mini habit is a very small positive behavior that you force yourself to do every day. Small steps work every time, and habits are built by consistency, so the two were meant to be together. Hey, it's still a better love story than Twilight. About habits and the brain. Why not just use small steps in daily life? Well, you absolutely should. But habits are the framework of your life, so to ignore them is a pretty big mistake. When I discovered the power of small steps from the One Push-Up Challenge, I felt like a superhero who had just discovered his superpower and wondered, how can I use this for the greatest good? Habits were the answer. This book focuses on using small steps for habits because there is nothing more important than your habits. A Duke University study concluded that about 45% of our behavior is from habit. Point 3. They are even more important than this 45% stake suggests, because habits are frequently repeated behaviors, often daily, and this repetition adds up to big benefits or big damage in the long run. The habit of writing 1,000 words per day would result in 365,000 words written a year. That's equal to 750,000-word novels. Though it would be shy of Leo Tolstoy's 580,000-word behemoth, War and Peace, that guy sure had a lot to say. Consider these classic novels that weigh in at about 50,000 words each. Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, 46,333 words. Stephen Crane's The Red Badge of Courage, 50,776 words. F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby, 50,061 words. Now, you may not write a novel of such world renown on the first try, or the first 100, but if you write 7 per year, you'll have quite a few attempts to perfect your craft, right? More potentially life-changing habits. The habit of exercising 20 minutes a day is enough to change your physique. The habit of eating healthier foods may add years to your life and give you more vitality throughout. The habit of rising 1 hour earlier each morning to read would give you 365 extra hours more per year. At the average reading speed of 300 words per minute, this extra time would allow you to read 6,570,000 words, or 131 more 50,000-word books per year. That's a lot of books, and a sure way to increase your knowledge. There are also less concrete examples such as thinking positively and being grateful that can have a dramatic impact on your life. With many habits, this store of life perks is now open for business. Choose your favorite habits and add them to your cart. For more mini habit ideas, visit minihabits.com. But wait, come back here. You've got to finish the book before you get too carried away. There's important information ahead that will help you succeed. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines a habit as a usual way of behaving, something that a person does often in a regular and repeated way. Since I tend to think in terms of resistance and willpower, I say it's a behavior that's easier to do than not to do. Habits are not directly accessible. You can't immediately create or remove one right now. They are molded over time by repetition. What do habits look like in the brain? Neural pathways are communication channels in the brain, and these pathways are what habits look like in the physical world. Here's how it works. Once a habit's assigned neural pathway is triggered by a thought or external cue, an electrical charge fires along the pathway in your brain, and you'll have an urge or thought to engage in the habitual behavior. For example, if you take a shower immediately after waking up every day, you'll have a neural pathway associated with that behavior. You'll wake up, the shower neurons will fire, and you'll walk to the shower like a zombie, no thinking required. This is the magic and the curse of having habits, depending on if they are good or bad. As a habit becomes more ingrained, the associated neural pathway will literally get thicker and stronger. Yikes! Knowing this information simplifies and clarifies our goal. We want to create and strengthen specific neural pathways with repetition. It sounds easy when put this way, but we'll have to overcome innate human limitations to do it. Many standard habit strategies you'll find don't take these proven limitations into account, underestimate how severe they are, or make vague and unhelpful statements like, "It's going to be hard, you've got to want it." Without a solid plan to handle these limitations, you'll suffer from burnout or inconsistency and give up early, even if you go in fired up. Can you tell I'm a bit anti-motivational? That's because it failed me for 10 years, but we'll get to that later. Habits are a matter of life in stress. While we're discussing the importance of habits, consider stress. Today's world runs at a faster pace than ever before, and we all seem to be more stressed out as a result. Life is imperfect, and it's impossible to navigate it without some stress. The question that most people never think to ask is, how does stress impact my habits? Stress has been shown to increase habitual behavior, for better or worse. 2 experiments at UCLA and 1 at Duke University found that stress increased people's gravitation toward habitual behavior. Based on her study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, Professor Wendy Wood argues, people can't make decisions easily when stressed, are low in willpower or feeling overwhelmed. When you are too tired to make a decision, you tend to just repeat what you usually do. This holds true for both good and bad habits and is a crucial insight for their importance in our lives. Just imagine for a second now what can happen if your bad habits stress you out. It's the perfect recipe for a negative feedback loop. Your stress triggers a bad habit, which triggers guilt, internal angst, and more stress, which triggers the habit again. But now imagine what could happen if your habits are naturally stress-relieving, such as exercise. In this case, your stress will chauffeur you to the gym, and the exercise will help you to relieve tension. The difference in impact on your life is mind-blowing, as one puts you in a positive position to succeed despite life's harsh occurrences, while the other constantly threatens to drop you into a negative spiral. Being a football fan, I think of the big swings in games where one team is about to score a touchdown from the 1-yard line, but the quarterback throws an interception that the other team returns for a touchdown. That's not just 7 points for the other team, it takes away the probable 7 points his team was going to gain. It's a 14-point swing. Because of stress, all habits tend to be 14-point swings. The other implication this has for us is in the difficulty of change. Higher amounts of stress make it more challenging for us to change our lives. As Professor Wood says, you tend to just repeat what you usually do. If stress makes us run to our habits, then it also makes us run away from everything else, including that new positive behavior that we'd like to make into a habit. You can't see it, but I'm smiling right now. The standard habit formula crumbles when we're stressed because our existing habits get stronger, but the mini-habit system won't fail you here. How long does it take to form a new habit? It depends. Anyone who tells you differently is repeating what they've heard, which is wrong. It is not 21 or 30 days. For Pete's and everyone else's sake, I want to put this up on every billboard. The 21-day habit myth was possibly started by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, a plastic surgeon. Dr. Maltz reportedly found that amputees took about 21 days to get used to the loss of a limb. So he argued that 21 days was how long it took for people to adjust to any life changes. Really, Doc? I would argue that coping with losing a limb and trying to drink more water are not the same type of experience. And I'll add that they're both quite different from trying to do 150 push-ups a day. The most cited viable study on habit formation duration was published in 2009 in the European Journal of Social Psychology. 6 Each participant chose an eating, drinking or activity behavior to carry out daily in the same context, for example after breakfast, for 12 weeks. And what did they find? The average time for a behavior to become habit was 66 days. But the range was wild, from 18 to 254 days, showing that there is huge variation in people's time to reach habit automaticity, and that it can end up taking a very long time in some cases. 21 and 30-day challenges are popular, but they're highly unlikely to form many types of habits. Drinking a glass of water every day could fall into the 21-day window, but something more challenging like 100 sit-ups daily could take a couple hundred days or more to become habit. That's the bad news. The good news is that habits aren't snap-on, snap-off. If you do 100 sit-ups for 60 days, day 61 will be much easier for you than day 1 was, even if it isn't completely automatic yet. Building a habit is like riding a bike up a steep incline that levels out, peaks, and goes down. To start, you have to push with all the force your legs can muster. It gets progressively easier after that, but you must keep pedaling until you reach the top of the hill or you'll go backwards and lose your progress. In my experience, the first sign of habit formation is decreased resistance, which makes perfect sense. Our mind communicates internally by sending electrical impulses through these neural pathways, and we know that electricity always takes the path of least resistance. Like this concept, our brain prefers to perform habits because they have existing pathways and known rewards. But new behaviors are unproven, risky, and have no neural pathway. So when you don't have a solid pathway for this behavior yet, you have to manually override the typical behavior. As you do it more, the baby neural pathway will start to grow, and over time, it will compete with the previous behavior. As for the process, it doesn't matter how long a habit takes you to form because the goal is to do it forever anyway. Why would you want to exercise for 6 months and quit when you reached your goal? Wouldn't it be disheartening to regress after that point? What really matters is recognizing the signs of a behavior becoming a habit, after which you can switch your focus to something else and still maintain the behavior. One more interesting note from the 2009 study: researchers concluded that missing a day did not derail a habit. Physiologically speaking, one day didn't make or break the process. But psychologically, missing a day can be a problem if you let it. It's better not to miss a day, but keep this fact in mind: if you do, it might stop you from getting discouraged and losing your progress. Thank you. Please share and subscribe.